Okay, everybody, we are on the last objective for Unit 6. We are on 6.11 Challenges of Urban Sustainability. So we're going to wrap up this unit today. We're going to focus on describing the effectiveness of different attempts to address urban sustainability challenges. So this includes suburban sprawl, sanitation, issues with climate change, air and water quality, the large ecological footprint of cities and also their energy use, as well as responses to these sustainable challenges like regional planning efforts, remediation or redevelopment, the establishment of urban growth boundaries, and farmland protection policies. And also, you can hear the pups here just chewing away on their toys. So, challenges to urban sustainability. We have one, suburban sprawl and the ecological footprint of these areas. So as you can see here, this idea of suburban sprawl just spreading out in a very wide way that's not exactly sustainable, that consumes a lot of resources. So with greater access to the automobile and roads, commercial and residential developments have expanded outward from the city core. Right, we've gone over this part before. This results in higher levels of traffic congestion, air pollution as well, due to increased amount of fossil fuels used in cars. So this means that there's a lot of driving, a lot of resources being consumed and pollution being generated. There's definitely a larger ecological footprint, especially as areas are destroyed and then developed into basically like suburban urban areas. So for ecological footprint, this is basically being able to measure how fast we consume resources and generate waste, especially in comparison to nature's ability to regenerate those resources. So the larger ecological footprints indicate that humans are consuming too fast for the natural environment to sustain. So, we've talked about this back in like Unit 2 with population. So this is just showing how much waste is generated per day. US number one, that's not a good thing, of generating tons, literal tons per day, hundreds upon thousands of tons per day. So these are just some indicators that are some markers that are used to understand a place's or someone's ecological footprint. So you can pause this and take a look through it. Also, sanitation is a concern as well. Sanitation issues like open defecation, or when people have to use the restroom in places that do not have an appropriate sewage line. That can cause a lot of issues, a lot of challenges, especially to having clean water. This can result in death. Like, this is not an exaggeration. Especially for children, they have a higher mortality rate due to diarrhea. I know that might not sound serious, but if it's basically cholera, right? When water gets contaminated and people drink it, children cannot survive that the way that adults can, and they end up dying. So this is a problem, especially in areas that might be war-torn, where some of their infrastructure is destroyed or unable to be fixed. Climate change and energy consumption is another huge challenge. We're seeing some of these issues coming to the forefront a little bit more in recent years. So because urban areas consume so much energy, a lot of it being fossil fuels, that again all contributes to climate change. So things like rising sea levels, flooding, heat waves, so many other challenges that are being posed because of climate change. And then here, this is from 2021. This is primary energy consumption. So as you can see here, the darker the blue, the more energy being consumed. Air and water quality is another challenge. So air pollution, water pollution, that's usually caused by industrial uses like manufacturing plants and power plants, things like that, using vehicles, all sorts of things that can pollute our air quality. This is a huge problem in very urban areas. there's like air quality warnings and everything. You can see the smog. I mean, like, look at this. Air quality can be a huge issue for densely populated areas. And then for water pollution, again, kind of coming back to this idea of sewage and sanitation systems, or just having like industrial waste if it's not being disposed of properly outside of factories and things like that. Agricultural waste as well. This can affect people's drinking water, which can then lead to many health issues. And like we've already covered, typically like water pollution and some of these issues tend to affect people who are of low income or people of color. And in terms of responses, so one response to some of these issues has been something called regional planning. As the world becomes increasingly more urbanized and globally connected, urban sustainability issues become essential for governments to work together to rectify and address. Planning at a regional scale that seeks to coordinate the development of housing, transportation, urban infrastructure, and economic activities. So this is done as like an overall holistic plan in order to make urban sustainability more of a priority in certain areas. Costs are shared, facilities and standards for addressing urban sustainability issues. So this is done as like a initiative using multiple areas trying to accomplish that same goal of sustainability. So in terms of like groups coming together to do this, we see this at the regional level with like the EU or with like even globally. These are some global initiatives, the Paris Climate Agreement, the COP meetings that happen annually. So you can take a pause and read through these. These are some of the major initiatives that we see happening around the world. Remediation and redevelopment of brownfields. This is another one. A brownfield is a large abandoned industrial area that used to be used for manufacturing that is not safe and typically polluted. So trying to redevelop some of these areas. Remediation includes decontamination and also creating urban spaces that are then deemed more sustainable, like mixed-use development, green spaces, and so on. So these are some examples. This is from Detroit. This was before, this is after. Definitely a lot more usable, a lot healthier. And then over here in Massachusetts, a before and after of a brownfield. And then also this, sorry. My throat is dry, guys. The establishment of urban growth boundaries and farmland protection policies. This is another way to force the stop of urban sprawl or suburban sprawl. So one way to do this is to protect farmland or to protect green areas and, deem a area as a green belt.